My grandfather started a general store in 1913 in Clinton, Maryland. It was sort of like it was the economic hub of Clinton, Maryland. It was because it was free credit to farmers, free delivery, and he supplied all their needs. So, for example, he had a clothing store there. He had jars. Uh, he had things that they would use for canning facilities. He had every types of feed imaginable for the cows, for the horses, for the turkeys, uh, and obviously groceries. They sold meat. They sold fish, and then what they also delivered, they would get produce in Baltimore. On a Tuesday night, they go to stay there all night, and then they would deliver the produce to little small grocery stores in Southern Maryland that didn't have the ability to get fresh produce to sell to their stores. And so he was a jobber and beer distributor. Uh, and the store was open 72 hours a week. You were expected to work 72 hours. It was open 7 in the morning to 6 at night, Monday through Thursday, and 7 to 8 on Friday night and Saturday. And so I'm the oldest of 10 children, and keep me from teasing my 6 sisters who were right in line with me. They sent me to work at the age of 10. And so I went to work at the age of 10, and then the first week's pay was like $3.25. And my father marched me over to the Clinton Bank and had me deposit the money in the bank. My mother and I fought him. Said, no, it's his money. He says, we're going to start a saving account. And so that was a real good lesson. And each week, after I would get paid, I'd take a portion of my paycheck and walk over to the bank, a couple dollars, and put it in the bank. And then I was 16, I was able to buy my own car. $900 cash,
What kind of car was it?
56 Chevrolet.
Sweet.
Used 56 Chevrolet, but it was, but those are good lessons. You learn work habits, and you're treated like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I was the boss's grandson, but you carried out groceries,
Mm-hmm.
and you met people.
Right.
And there were lessons later on in life when I went into politics, how to greet people, and realize that the customer was always right. You serve the people, and I learned that at BK Miller store and working there from the time I was. So anyway, had dinner with Bill Clinton one night,
Mm-hmm.
and he and I sitting there, and a guy from Gordon Peterson just next to us, and the first waiter goes along, Mr. President, he goes, Mike, how you doing? Second waiter comes along, gives Mike, how's your mom? Third lady comes along, gives me a kiss on the cheek. And Gordon Peterson says, my God, you must eat at the White House for dinner every night. I says, why is that? And he goes, everybody waits on us, knows you by your first name. I said, that's because I waited on them at BK Miller's liquor store in Clinton, Maryland. You know what I mean? So I served them, carried out their groceries, and just like my family, they would hire the children and grandchildren, people at the White House to make sure their families kept a job. And so it was a good experience.
Those life lessons, as you said, carry you through to your political career.
Right, they did.
Your grit, your intelligence, your talent. Certainly, you could have gone into any field.
Not really. I wasn't that good of a student, honestly. I went to grades 1 through 12 in the same building,
Mm-hmm.
Surrattsville School. When I started there in 1948 as a first grader, they had all 12 grades in the same. It was a country school. This was before Crossland. The closest schools were Oxon Hill and Siouxland. So people from Marlow Heights would come all the way to Clinton to go to school. And they had all 12 grades in the same building. The gym and the lunchroom were the same thing. And if one wasn't working, you'd eat in your classroom. You go to lunch and come to the cafeteria and come back. But it was a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I graduated from there, I was very lucky because College Park had to accept you then. They took everybody, and then they try to flunk you out. And so they said, look at the person to your left, look at your person right. He's not person not going to be here next semester. And I went to College Park. They let me in, as they did anybody who wanted to go there at that time. And I was able to persevere and study, and had a strong work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for 4 years. And then while I was there, a friend of mine's, friend of my father's, ran for governor in the state of Maryland. And so I was 18 years old, and he wanted me to be the driver for the governor candidate. This was 1962, and it was a Republican candidate for governor named Frank Small Jr., who was also from Clinton. He was president of the Clinton Bank, and he ran for governor as a Republican candidate for governor. And I drove with him all summer, and got to meet Eisenhower, got to meet Theodore McKeldin, got to meet Mac Mathias, good people like that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And he wanted you to be. I didn't even catch that.
Well, I was the aide de camp. I was the driver.
Okay.
But the anecdote is that the public relations guy in the campaign was Larry Hogan Sr., the governor's father.
Of course.
You see,
Absolutely.
and so the four of us would ride all over the state together. The gubernatorial candidate, me, the driver, and Larry Hogan, the PR guy. And when they would get out, the gubernatorial would get out, the PR guy would get out, and they leave me with a 5-year-old in the back seat, Larry Hogan Jr. So I've known the governor since he's 5 years old.
How was that?
Well, it worked out well. I mean, honestly, I've known him for quite some time. And obviously, it's helped us run the state of Maryland for the past 4.5 years. We come from different parties and different backgrounds. I'm a consensus builder. He's new to government, but we've helped him with his agenda quite a bit, especially when it comes to Prince George's County. And some things he hasn't agreed to, and we've had to mandate them,
Mm-hmm.
especially public education. He was inclined to put less money into public education, so we had to mandate a level of funding that he's had to fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
And now he brags about the money that he's put in education. Well, he was compelled to do so by the Maryland General Assembly. The same thing is true of the Prince George's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I made this deal with Martin O'Malley. The county was going to put in $200 million. The state of Maryland was going to put in $200 million. And the University of Maryland Medical System was going to put in $200 million. So it was a $600 million hospital. And we submitted the designs to the Hogan team and everything. They wanted to cut it back. This is a shock trauma hospital in the middle of Prince George's County. We had helicopters flying in.
Mm-hmm.
We have teachers coming from Baltimore. It's a teaching hospital. And so, for example, if you're in D.C. or you're in Montgomery County, you're in Southern Maryland, you're on an automobile accident, you don't fly to Baltimore. You fly to Prince George's County, now the shock trauma hospital. So we resisted the cuts in terms of making it a smaller hospital. And also we resisted other hospitals who wanted to take away our health care replacement facilities. We do transplants in Prince George's County. And they said, well, you're not up to snuff. Well, we're going to get up to snuff now that we've got the University of Maryland system there. So we've had the University of Maryland system come in. They've taken over the emergency room at Prince George's Hospital while the hospital is being built. And then we had to force the governor to fund it. In fact, what we did, just to make sure it would work, we added $100 million to the project. So we mandated another $100 million. The General Assembly did that last year.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's a $700 million hospital. It's going to be a fabulous, fabulous addition to Prince George's County. And it's going to spur economic development in that entire area. It's only like 4 miles from the Prince George's County line. So we're going to have people from all over Southern Maryland coming to that wonderful hospital.
Back to your introduction into politics.
Right.
Was that the moment, or that was the season of your life? That was a time that sort of spurred you to move toward politics?
I'm a historian.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up before television, and so my aunts, who were college graduates, would give me books for my birthday, give me books for Christmas. So I learned about U.S. Grant. I learned about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I learned about Teddy Roosevelt. I learned about Abraham Lincoln. And I read about these heroes when I was a child. And I loved history. And where I come from in Southern Maryland, it's colonial American history, Native American history, African American history, all right there. From the banks of the Potomac River, across from Mount Vernon, over to the Patuxent River. That's all my area that I represented. All southern Prince George's County. It was just wonderful. And there's so much history there, whether it's George Washington visiting or what have you. It's just, people that grew up there, the family stayed there. And like I say, like the people I met at the White House, they're my lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, it was a black and white growing up together. It was a segregated society, but the churches were not segregated, they were integrated. And the communities, if you wanted somebody to play with, you played with African American kids. They were your neighbors, they were your friends, and we'd ride bikes together, and I learned from them. So I have a lifelong history of African American music.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you the labels, I can tell you the flip sides, I can tell you the artist, and it served me well because I can dance. I learned how to dance from the brothers. I was wearing peg pants, I was wearing pink and black. I was whatever they were wearing, I was wearing.
Yeah.
They were wearing hats, they were wearing trench coats. I was me.
Wow.
Yeah.
The coolest thing about my experiences listening to you over these years is that you always were able to talk with everybody.
Right. Well, that comes from, like I say, being oldest of 10 kids. You serve. It's servant leadership. You take care of the youngest ones first. And then, like I say, working the store where the customer's always right. And you made sure they're taken care of. They get good quality service. They get good product at the lowest possible price. That's the only way you keep the customers.
Mm-hmm.
Free delivery, free credit.
Mm-hmm.
And you represent people. And then later on, when I first ran for public office, I took my campaign to the people and knocked on every door in my district. I went from door to door. The key thing was the Democratic primary, and I would average 50 Democrats an hour, just going racing from door to door. Hi, how are you? And those days,
50 Democrats an hour.
yeah. In those days, there were a lot of women home in the daytime, and I'd meet them and greet them, say hi, how you doing? Tell them who I was, and I led the ticket. So in 1970, I ran for the House of Delegates. There were 12 people running. It was my first time running for office, and I finished first out of the 12 people.
Why did you decide to run?
Well, like I say, it was a great honor. I mean, Atticus Finch was one of my heroes. Like a lawyer, a small town. I thought, this is the ideal situation. I was married, had 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
I had, in order to get my mother to come to my wedding, I had to promise her I wouldn't have any kids till I got to law school. 2 years later, I had 4 kids, 4 diaper pails outside a 2-bedroom apartment. We lived in Greenbelt, Spring Hill Lake Apartments. People said, "Who lives in that apartment?" 2-bedroom apartment. We had 4 diaper pails outside the apartment. We had 3 girls in 1 year.
Right.
Yeah, and so.
Twins, right?
Huh?
Two twins.
No, we had one Irish triplets. We had one at age 2 and one, and then twins the same year. So
Okay.
we had one on October 30th and 2 the following October 12th. But like I said, I was in law school at the time, and when I got out of law school, I just went back to Clinton, Maryland, and hung up a shingle. So I've had a law office there since 1967.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be there this afternoon when I get through here. I'll go up to Clinton, Maryland, and sit there and listen to people come in and talk to me.
The drive then to go into public office came out of the heroes that you.
Absolutely, the history of Southern Maryland, and the people I admired. For example, the people in Upper Marlboro, they ran Prince George's County. Mr. Sasser, he was the local congressman, but he would put together a ticket of people running for public office, and it would be Democrats one year, Republicans the next year. So, for example, in the Eisenhower years, they had Republicans running Prince George's County, and so I would see who did what in Prince George's County. I admired them. He was a gentleman farmer who was a congressman, but he went home every night in Upper Marlboro, and he raised tobacco, and he was just a dignified man whose son is still alive today, Lansdale Sasser Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
who served in the House of Delegates. I also had a mentor named Ernest Lovelace Jr., who was the chief judge of the 7th Judicial Circuit, and he lived in Clinton, Maryland. Former member of the House of Delegates, but he was a lawyer also in Clinton, and these were sort of my role models, and I wanted to be like them. And like I say, as you can see, I read history every night. I'm backed up right now. This is a new Frederick Douglass biography I got to read, I'm reading. I read several books at a time at night, and I just enjoy. You're never lonely, and you learn. Times change, but people make the same mistakes over and over again.
They do.
You know, and if you understand who made mistakes and why they made mistakes, whether it was alcohol, whether it was woman, whether it was greed, what have you, you're able to avoid those same mistakes. You know, and so that's helped me along the way in dealing with people and understand what motivates other people. You know, church is very important to me also. Now that I'm suffering from cancer, I wound up praying more than I did before. I suffer from fatigue, and so I have to pray each morning just to give me the strength to get up, get through the day.
And I know that if anybody can fight through.
Well, we're giving it a whirl. You know, I've had a great life. And I'm on borrowed time. I've had a great life. I'm thrilled. Like I say, this past weekend I had my 15th grandchild. And it was a celebration of life. And this Sunday, it's been my wife's 76th birthday. So we're all the family's going to come together on Sunday after church. We're going to go to church at 11:15. Then we're going to go to a restaurant next door and celebrate my wife's birthday. So it's about family. So I've got a huge support staff at home. These are my daughters are like caregivers. They want to know what I eat. They want to know if I'm going to the bathroom regularly. You know, these are my daughters, you know what I mean? So I'm being very well taken care of, and I have this position as President of the Senate. They couldn't be kinder to me. The Democrats and Republicans, all the members of the Senate, have been very supportive of me. They've been very helpful, and so I'm very blessed.
You know, you've done so much and moved so many in this area of our country. Some people have, in giving me an understanding of who is what here, you are kind of the central hub of a lot of decisions. You are kingmaker.
Well, no, I'm not
How
a
does that
kingmaker.
work?
I'm not a kingmaker, obviously, but what I am is dealing with, there's the governor, the Speaker of the House, and myself. There's the House of Delegates and the Senate. We're the policy-making branch of the state of Maryland. So whether it's minimum wage, which we're going to increase this year, whether it's banning styrofoam in the bay, whether it's banning the sale of tobacco to 21-year-olds, we're going to pass these bills this year. We're going to have a very strong progressive agenda. At the same time, we are going to fund the Kirwan Commission report for public education. On my watch, and on this governor's watch, Maryland has gone from #1 in publication to either 8 or 11. I'm not sure. But we're making certain changes. For example, the governor's edict on not starting school till after Labor Day, we're changing that. We're going to give our local school system the flexibility. So you want to start on August 15th or August 25th because you've got AP testing or you've got snow days to deal with. We're going to give the local jurisdictions the ability to control education. We're also going to put money into teacher salaries and to elevate the profession of teaching, while at the same time demanding accountability. You want these additional salaries, you want these additional benefits, and you get board certified. You get nationally certified. We want nationally certified teachers. And guess what? We want the best teachers to go to the lowest performing schools. You know, that's happening in Massachusetts. You know, they might not want it, but that's where we need them to do. That's what we need. We need the very best qualified teachers in schools where, especially where African American children are not performing as well as their counterparts. That's not so true in Prince George's County, but it is true in Baltimore City.
True, absolutely.
And we need to make adjustments happen. We're working with Angela Alsobrooks to provide new school buildings this year. And you're going to be very pleased with for example, the school that I graduated from, Sorrento High School, hasn't been changed since 1960. We need to make progress. And I'm working with the county executive, who I'm thrilled to work with. We're excited about Angela Alsobrooks and her administration. We're going to make positive things happen.